Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia and I am your host and wedding photographer based in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. Today on the podcast we have Sonam. Sonam and Ashan got married at the start of 2022 and they had a multi-day wedding with different events incorporating Indian and Kiwi traditions. Their wedding was photographed by the lovely Jodie from I Do Photography, and I was actually second shooter for a couple of their celebrations, which is nice to have been on the ground at the wedding and then to chat to her and reflect back on that season and time. We chat about their love story and a very romantic proposal in Bali, having a specific vision and using Pinterest for inspo and colour palette for the different events, what it is like to work with a wedding planner, and also having a marquee reception where you basically have to build your venue from the ground up, having a large guest list and then having to last minute cut that down due to the alert levels at the time, and so much more amazing advice and inspiration. I know you're going to love this one. Make sure you go over to our Instagram at the Kiwi Wedding Podcast, give us a follow and check out some photos from Sonam and Ashan's stay there as well. Enjoy episode 33 with Sonam. Hi Sonam, thanks so much for jumping on with me today, and I'm so excited to chat all about your wedding.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me on.
So to start with, if you could just tell me a little bit about you and your husband, how you guys met and your life together.
Yeah, sure. Wow. So Ashan and I met about 11 years ago now, so back in 2013, so quite a while. Um, and then yeah, we met through a mutual friend, and we had got engaged in 2019 and then married in 2022. So yeah.
And can you tell us a bit about your proposal story?
We actually got engaged in Bali. So this was back in October 2019. So like before COVID and all the travel restrictions and everything kicked in and everyone was free to travel around. So yeah, we got engaged in Bali. It was beautiful proposal. He set up this like beautiful like it was in Uluwatu, in, I don't know if you know that area, but just sort of like the southern coast of Bali. So stunning location, yeah, with like the water in the background, and we were at these like villas, and he'd worked with the people at the villa to sort of set up this like beautiful rose petals everywhere and candles and stuff. So it was very romantic, very beautiful. Um, but yeah, that was a long time coming. I think that was 8 years we'd been together before we actually got engaged. So that was really, really special.
Oh, so cool. Such a beautiful spot for it. And yeah, amazing like memories and story to have. I love it. So when it came to starting to plan the wedding, I know that you had a few different celebrations and it wasn't just going to be one day. And yeah, so you were like incorporating your different cultures. And how did you go about the first steps of that? Did you have like a vision in mind? And yeah, where did you first start?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always knew that we were going to have kind of two weddings to incorporate our two cultures. And with Indian weddings, as you'll know, there's lots of events in the lead up to it. So we kind of had already from the get go, set ourselves up to, I guess, understand that it was going to be a full week of events that was going to then lead up to our civil ceremony that was, yeah, I guess a little bit more of a Kiwi style wedding, you'd say. So, yeah, the planning of that was like, it was pretty straightforward because I guess it was just, we knew that, the events that we were going to have to do in the lead up to our Indian ceremony. And then we always knew that we were going to have two ceremonies. So one being the Sikh ceremony at the temple, and then one being the civil ceremony that we were going to have the next day. So it was kind of, we had in our mind already what we were going to do in terms of those like events, and they were quite sort of preset.
Cool. And did you have quite a lot of family involvement in organising all of that, or you worked with a wedding planner? Was it a bit of a collaboration in terms of planning all the different events?
Yeah, absolutely. It was lots of lots of family involvement, and I think anyone that's planned an Indian wedding can attest to that. But yeah, it was a bit of both, so it was quite nice. We had with our Indian events, so we had a haldi ceremony, which is like a turmeric ceremony. Then we had a Mendi night, which was like we, all the singing and dancing. Then we had our Sikh ceremony. All of that was organised by myself, Ashan, and my family. And then we had our sort of, I guess, main event, which was out at Te Hihi Estate, which we worked with Oh Such Style, who were amazing in helping us with the full event planning for that one. So, yeah, a couple of different, yeah, we had a mix, I guess, of doing it ourselves and then using the full event planning service.
So good. And what were the most important elements for you when planning the wedding, your kind of top priorities in terms of vendors or style, vibe, all of that?
Yeah, so I think because we had the Indian wedding and then we had our wedding out at Te Hihi, I had a vision of kind of two completely different styles, which I really loved because, with the Indian wedding, we were able to incorporate, for example, with florals. The themes were very vibrant, and so it was pinks and oranges and, a lot of color to really go with the bold colors that we had throughout that week. And then that was completely contrasted to the florals that we had at Te Hihi, which was, you know, that was very much a white on white aesthetic, a lot of greenery, very timeless and elegant. So I loved the idea of being able to do that contrast. And I think that theme was carried through and with the florals, the decor, the outfits, jewelry, like all of that was just really contrasted from my Indian wedding through to our day at Te Hihi. So, yeah, that was really important to me when I was thinking about all of the vendors from, right through from florist, photography, outfits, all of those kind of different elements.
And it looked stunning. You had the amazing Jodie from I Do Photography capturing the day, who I've worked with quite a lot. She's amazing, and I was lucky enough to be second shooter for a few of your celebrations. So cool to have seen all how it turned out and be chatting to you now. And so, can you tell me a bit about your wedding outfits? So you had a few different ones for all your events, but what was that process like, deciding what to wear and finding them?
Yeah, so the Indian outfits I'll start with, a lot of the inspiration for that just honestly came from Pinterest at the time. We had a lot of different Pinterest boards just to get inspo of colors and things like that. A lot of Instagram pages. So my Indian outfits were actually designed and made in India. So at the time, because we had all of the COVID restrictions, we couldn't travel to India. So I worked with an amazing girl over there who was based out in Mumbai, who I would have video calls with, and she would show me different samples of colors and intricate designs and things like that. So all of that was actually made over there, which was amazing. And then I had two gowns at my Te Hihi wedding, which were from Hera Couture, and they were stunning, and Hera were amazing to work with. They really wanted them again to be quite contrasted to what I was wearing on the couple of days before for my Indian ceremonies. So I had those, beautiful colors. So for my Mendi night, I had this, deep green color. And then for my Indian, for the Sikh wedding, we had this like pink and gold. And then so I really want, you've got so much in an Indian bride, you have so much jewelry and you've got all of the henna and, there is a lot going on there. So what I really wanted was to be able to contrast that whole look to my Te Hihi look, where I had, a more sort of understated look, also had my hair out, just things like that. So like hair out versus hair out. The makeup was really pared back to more of an everyday versus, everyday glam versus the really heavy glam that I had with the Indian outfits. So all of that was like really, really thought through. But yeah, so for the Te Hihi wedding, I had a gown, a sort of like big A-line gown for my ceremony, and then I actually changed into more of a slip gown for the reception, just to be able to dance, and had my first dance in that, which was cool. So yeah, lots of different lots of different outfits.
So cool. Stunning, and yeah, amazing to just have all those different looks and photos in the mall. I love it. And who was in your bridal party, and did you find that an easy process choosing them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had three bridesmaids. One was my sister-in-law, who's Ishan's sister, which I just thought was a nice way to be able to kind of include her in the wedding. And then I had two of my best friends from school who I've known for over 15 years. So yeah, that was how that worked for us. And then Ishan also had three very good friends who he's known for a very long time. So everyone knew each other before and had, you know, we've all kind of known each other for as long as Ishan and I have been together. So it was quite nice. It wasn't like people were being introduced to each other for the first time or anything like that. It was quite a natural alignment.
Yeah, so good. It just really creates the sort of vibe because you're with them most of the time on the day. So yeah, that helps if everyone gets along and it's just like you're hanging out with friends and family. And how about the guest list? You would have had a few different ones, I imagine, but yeah, did you find that hard to narrow it down, or was it quite an open invite?
Yeah, so really interesting story with us with regards to the guest list because so literally the Sunday before our wedding week started, the announcement came through about moving back into the red light um, level. And so what that meant is that we basically went from having a guest list of 230 to 100. So, and just like having literally, 48 hours to be able to replan an entire guest list and all of that. And I sort of think back on it and go, oh, would it have been easier to just postpone it? But actually, it worked out in a way because the guests that the full guest list that we would have had would have been absolutely amazing, but people were so good about it, and they were ringing up my parents and ringing us up and saying like, please don't worry about us, like take us off the list. Like people were just so understanding, and so actually it ended up being very, very close family and friends. And our parents were really amazing in that sense, where they sort of said, no, you guys sort of prioritize who you want, because I guess a lot of the larger number came from a lot of their extended, friends and family, etc. So in the end, we sort of had, the people there, a really good number, and we were able to talk to everyone and actually engage with everyone on a really good level. And I guess the other point about that was that because we did have a couple of different events, we were able to invite a few different groups of people to those different events. And so there were people that, still felt like they were part of some of it at least. But yeah, that was really, really hard with the guest list going down to that 100 guest limit. And yeah, pretty stressful couple of days before your wedding.
Absolutely, such a tough time, and I feel for so many couples that had to do that during it. But yeah, luckily that you had a few different things and all worked out to be like a nice number in the end. And can you just tell us a bit about the big day, the big week, really, and yeah, how it all went down? Any like highlights, favorite moments?
Yeah, so many highlights. I think we'd been planning the wedding for over a year, and, for it to just all come together and seeing all of, yes, we couldn't have our overseas family there, which was, a real shame, but just seeing everybody in the room together celebrating and having a really good time generally across all of the events was the highlight. But I think in particular, at on the Saturday at Te Hihi Estate, I remember because I had actually got ready there, me and my bridesmaids, and so I had the opportunity to do a really quick sneak peek into the marquee and have a look at the reception space. And I just remember looking at it and going, wow, like this is just amazing. And it was actually just more than what I could have expected. Just to see all of that like hard work and all those vendors come together and bring it all to life after what had been a really stressful time with COVID and everything. I think I was just quite overwhelmed by that in the best way. So seeing that, and then I remember Danielle from Oh Such Style showing me a photo when I was getting ready, a photo of this ceremony space that Michelle Kumi had set up with the florals, and I just almost cried, like happy tears, because I was like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. Like it was so dreamy, and it was literally more than I could have, expected. So I was really, really happy with that. So I think, yeah, just seeing all of your vision come to life, particularly for a wedding where, with that day, it was there was nothing there. Te Hihi Estate is a beautiful location, but there's nothing there. So you really have to build the wedding from scratch. And so creating those different spaces, I think, and just seeing all of that come to life was really, really cool, very special.
Yeah, such a stunning setting there. And yeah, like you say, it's a bit of a blank canvas to create your own. And it just, yeah, looked so amazing seeing all of that come together. And how did you find sort of building your reception space from scratch, I guess, just having a marquee wedding? What was that process like?
It was definitely a lot of work, and I think that was where having a wedding planner to be able to help bring all of the logistics of everything together was really invaluable. You know, yeah, just to build kind of something out of nothing, it does take a lot more work than being able to, go to a venue and have everything kind of set up there already. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. However, with something like a marquee wedding, you're creating something really bespoke and different. So I think that's what's really special about it. So in the end, it was absolutely our vision of what we wanted. But yeah, definitely something to keep in mind that it does take a lot more work in terms of logistics of being able to just furniture and flooring, lighting, all of that stuff has really got to be built when you're doing something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, good for people to hear. There's a lot more work that goes into it than you think. But yeah,
Yeah,
like you say, very unique and special to be able to just, yeah, create your own look and vibe.
yeah, for sure.
And was there anything you found really hard or difficult about the wedding planning process or that you look back on and would do differently?
I think just that, yeah, reorganizing that guest list. I mean, obviously, that's not something that I think any couple's ever going to have to go through again, luckily. Um, yeah, that was just the most stressful part of it, I think, was yeah, just that the planning and replanning of COVID would really was the most stressful thing ever. But in the end, like I say, I don't regret going ahead with it, even though we had the limited numbers, because at the end of the day, we were just so ready to get married, and we really just wanted to sort of like get on with it. And we weren't even sure at that time when all of the restrictions were going to be lifted. So it took like I think most of that year in 2022 before things even got back to normal, because we were in January, and I think things didn't start to normalize until the sort of end of the year. So that would have been too late for us to wait. We were just like, nope. Like I said, we went together for as long as we had, and we were just ready to kind of get on with it. So no regrets in that sense. But yeah, if I could get rid of the stress of COVID, that would have been amazing.
Oh, totally. It's yeah, it was definitely out of your control and so yeah, such a tough thing to navigate, but yeah, it's good that you went ahead and it would have been probably even more stressful if you were trying to reschedule and postpone everything. And did you guys go on honeymoon straight away? I can't remember but there was probably still travel restrictions then. But yeah, what did planning that look like?
Yeah, so the border restrictions were still in place. So we ended up doing a local honeymoon at Curry Cliffs, just up north. So that was really beautiful and relaxing and like exactly what we needed after what was a very full-on week with lots of people and lots of those events back to back. So just to kind of be in a really relaxing setting like that, just the two of us, it was actually really, really nice.
So good. And were there any helpful websites or apps, resources that helped you during the planning process? You mentioned Pinterest, which is always a good one, but yeah, anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, Pinterest just amazing for inspo and like if you yeah, I had created different mood boards for my different events, so that I found that really helpful. And also, we did work with Oh Such Style on some different mood boards as well to create all of that, just to kind of help bring the vision to life. I think it's really great for if you're a little bit stuck on exactly which direction you want to go with, but you sort of have some sort of an idea. It just gives you lots of different inspo, and you can start to create mood boards to create color palettes and things like that. Um, but Instagram, to be honest, like, I mean, I know people still use that all the time for inspo, but I think at the time it was also discovering different vendors. So I found Jodie, for example, on Instagram. And, you know, that was just after searching for lots of different photographers. Yeah, like florals, all of that stuff. I actually did a lot of research and a lot of homework looking at different accounts and different. I guess that was after I found my theme, or like mood boards and things were created, and then I sort of like went on Instagram and found vendors that I thought aligned to the sort of look and aesthetic that I liked. So for example, Jodie's, you know, photos were really bright and happy and really capture the joy and all of that. So I loved that, and to go with kind of our white on white aesthetic and all of that. So yeah, Instagram and Pinterest, I think I used a lot, but it was also just our own style as well. Like I think we sort of, Ashan and I were very aligned on what we wanted the wedding to look like as well. And so, yeah, a little bit, I guess, a little bit of our own style as well.
Yeah, so good. Just to think about what represents you guys, and yeah, not being too influenced by trends and stuff, just like your own style. That's great advice for people. And yeah, do you have any advice for couples that are planning their wedding at the moment, and maybe in particular for Kiwi Indian weddings as well?
Yeah, I mean, a few bits of advice. I think if you have a specific vendor in mind, whether that be a photographer or a venue, you know, that you've seen, or a venue that you really like, get in touch with them as soon as you can, or if you have an idea of when your wedding is, because especially if you're Auckland based, because you know things get booked out really quickly, and often people want to have their weddings during the summer months, and you know in Auckland we're really limited on who's available when. So I think key is getting in touch with people as early as possible if you have specific vendors in mind, because often a venue will, you know, a venue's availability will dictate your wedding date, like when you get married. um, I think that's a big one. And then the other one is if you haven't made a deposit, don't assume that the vendor is yours, and always follow up, because people are getting, you know, vendors are getting inquiries all the time, as you know. And yeah, just without that sort of confirmation, I think, you know, don't assume that people are just available all of the time. Get all of those things locked in, as I say, if you've got, you know, particular vendors in mind that you'd really like to use.
That's great advice for people. And yeah, especially after those COVID years, there was a lot of catching up with dates and stuff. So people in demand, but it is always the way. And especially when you talk about venues, if you want a Saturday in summer, that's very in demand. So some of them book out like 18 to 2 years in advance, 18 to 24 months. So yeah, inquire as soon as possible. And what is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of the post-wedding blues after your wedding?
I think, yeah, wedding, sorry, married life is amazing, but I think, yeah, you definitely do get a little bit of those like post-wedding blues straight after. I think that's so normal and everybody has that, especially because you dedicate so much of your life. If you were anything like us, like I said, it took a year for us to plan our wedding. And so that's all that you're talking about and thinking about for a really long time, and then to kind of all of a sudden that be over. And often people, it is just the one day, so it's just over so quickly, it's a bit like, oh. But that's where when you've got an amazing photographer. If you do get a videographer as well, that's also something I'd like highly recommend if people can get a videographer, just to be able to have all of those memories to be able to play back. I think that's when it all sort of goes away, because you're like, oh wow, this was captured beautifully, and you've got all of that to be able to look back on. But yeah, no, married life is amazing, and like I said, we're expecting our first baby in a couple of months' time. So yeah, it's all going well.
So exciting. So cool to hear. And yeah, it's been so lovely to chat with you and just reflect on that whole time in your life. Such a special season that goes by quite quickly. But yeah, like you say, just having those memories and reflecting on it is so cool. And yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add or say to engage people as we wrap up?
I think, weddings are so amazing. And, as I said, there's a lot of time and planning and effort that goes into it. So just make sure that when the day does come, or the week in our case comes, enjoy it as much as you can. And I know everybody says that, but, you really do have to take the time, if you can, to just take it all in, because it does go so, so fast. And, everybody is there at the end of the day to celebrate you as a couple. And so, yeah, make sure you do enjoy it. It is stressful. There's lots of things that won't go your way, but at the end of the day, the things that you think are going wrong or are missing or whatever, your guests will have no idea. So try to just be in the moment, I think, is the best advice that I can give.
So good. That's great advice. And yeah, can be easier said than done sometimes, but an important one to remember for sure. Amazing. Thank you so much.
No worries.